Welcome to another edition of Horse Center, everyone. I am Brian Zipse, and as always, I have the outstanding pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Shipman. How are you today, Matt?
I am good, Brian. It's good to see you. I think we should spend a little time with Horse Center down your way this weekend.
Yeah, well, we might be looking at Churchill Downs the next couple of weeks. Certainly, the best races this week, as we see it, are in Churchill Downs, Louisville, Kentucky, Churchill Downs. We're going to look at a couple interesting Grade 3 races. Next week, of course, we go into the Thanksgiving holiday, which is big at Churchill. We got Aqueduct's big day coming a week after that. So a bunch of big races coming up. We'll also be looking at California a little bit in December as well. But are you ready, Matt, for Churchill Downs on Saturday?
I'm ready. I handicapped. Let's go.
You handicapped. You can pretty much say that most days in your life, sir. Here we go. Here we go. The Chilukki. What a great name. Chilukki, of course, a nice filly and mare from years past. This is a grade three. Matt, $300,000 going 1 mile. That's a one turn 1 mile at Churchill Downs. It's race eight on Saturday. And we got a field of eight. And it's a pretty nice field of eight, Matt, with a bunch of pretty good mares, hard hitting grade three types against a possible star. Too Sharp looks like she'll get a lot of money as the lone 3-year-old in the field, Matt.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. As a matter of fact, Too Sharp has been a heavy odds on favorite in all four of her races.
Yeah, Too Sharp has been bet, and she hasn't done poorly. 2 wins, 2 seconds, and her 2 wins are by big margins. A narrow loser of the Grade 3 Prioress, 2 starts back at Saratoga when Brightwork ran a big race to beat her. She came back last time at Keeneland going 6.5. She won, as I said, big, fast time. This is a Phil Bauer Rigney Racing. If you've been following Kentucky racing at all, you know that they've had some very good horses over the years. This is another one. Too Sharp, a daughter of Twirling Candy. She'll be stretching out though. She's never been farther than that 6.5 she did in her 2 wins. This'll be a mile, Matt.
Yeah, and also blinkers go on, which is an interesting move for this horse who has run well in the other races, which makes you think there's something going on that they want to try and correct, whether she's hard to handle or they think it's going to help her stretch out. I don't know, but an interesting move.
Yeah, it is an interesting move, and we wouldn't think that move is looking for more speed. Certainly, Too Sharp has shown a lot of speed in her short career, which started back in June. Yeah, it's probably a focus move, although it's hard to tell from watching her races as I have. Too Sharp, a talented 3-year-old, but this is a tricky little spot. And we have her, you see, at 8 to 5 there on the morning line, Matt. I think she could be lower than that. So it might make sense to look elsewhere here to see if they can beat the younger horse stretching out for the first time. We'll start on the rail with Amonra. Amonra, of course, comes from Safi Josephs. And Amonra has shown some speed recently, and she's run in a bunch of stakes races now. She's just not getting it done quite in stakes races, although relatively competitive.
Yeah, relatively competitive. Fourth, fifth in four different stakes races. Last win came in April in an allowance race at Gulfstream Park. Was second in the Iowa Oaks last year. Factor in her favor is that she's trained by Safi Joseph Jr., and it's just hard to completely eliminate any of his horses.
Yeah, yeah, Joseph wins a lot, although not so far yet at this fall meet at Churchill Downs. But it's also a jockey change to Louis Saez, and I think the fact that she's been showing a little bit more speed recently and draws the rail in here, she could be a pace presence. Last time she was forced to Soul of an Angel in the Grade 3 Princess Rooney, who we all know came back to win the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint last time. So she's been keeping pretty good company, mostly down there in Florida. Number 2 is an interesting horse to me, Pagali. Pagali is a daughter of Blame, you know I like Blame, out of a flatter mare for, trainer Tom Drury Jr., and, Pagali is an improving, Claiborne, homebred match. She's, 2 starts removed from winning a pretty good stakes race at Ellis Park. The Groupie Doll is not a graded stakes, but it generally draws a good field, and it did this year. Golly won it at, 23 to 1 that day, coming from off the pace. What do you think of Pagali in here?
Yeah, and like you said, that was a nice win in the Groupie Doll, named after one of your favorite horses, favorite sprinters for sure. And in addition to that, she does have three allowance victories. So this is a horse that knows how to find the winner's circle.
Yeah, she knows how to find the winner's circle, she knows how to win at Churchill, she knows how to win at a mile, and you're right, Groupie Doll was definitely one of my favorites. Hey, let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector, because we've already talked about Too Sharp and a couple other fillies that, have had some speed. There we see Too Sharp, blinkers on, Too Sharp, as the speed of the speed as she stretches out as a clear, probably heavy favorite in here. Bagali is what Timeform US Space Projector says will be, the closest pursuer, but I certainly could see Amanra, out there as well, especially with Luis Saez riding on Saturday.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that how that plays out, along with the factor that we mentioned that uh, the number four horse, the favorite, has never gone this distance.
Yeah, never gone farther than 6.5, and we see on this Timeform US pace projector also Ouvre, the number 7 coming from Chicago. She's not necessarily a speed horse, but she is a sprinter, really. She does most of her running in sprints, and she's been really sharp on dirt, so I think there are fillies that could test Too Sharp at some point, maybe earlier than she wants in here. We'll see, but, we do expect Too Sharp at least to have, the early pace to control this race, at least the first half mile before the, tests from the older fillies come. Matt, going down the list, let's take a look at number 3, Tax. Tax was back in the pack on that Timeform US pace projector, as we just saw it, and, Tax is a filly she was the Black Eyed Susan winner last year, Grade 2 race, she rallied nicely at Pimlico. Uh, the daughter of Collected, though, as a 4-year-old, has been just a little bit disappointing with only an allowance win. All her other races I'm sorry, 2 allowance wins. All her other races were stakes races, and she just couldn't quite get the job done there.
Yeah, I mean, her record's a little bit like Pagali, but not quite as accomplished with some allowance wins in there, and decent performances in stakes, but has yet to break through in stakes races.
Yeah, last year, of course, she did, as I mentioned, the,
Yes,
Black
right.
Eyed Susan, she was 2nd in the Indiana Oaks last year, so, good stakes experience, and this year she hasn't been embarrassed, but Pagali has beaten her in her last 2. If the pressure comes early to Too Sharp, perhaps, Philly like Taxed is one to, take advantage of that and come running down the stretch. She's done it before. But no stakes wins this year for Tax. The next horse is another interesting horse. Flavian Prat's going to be aboard Royal Spa. Royal Spa has one of those horses who's shown some ability when it's allowance company. In fact, in maiden races and allowance races, she really doesn't get beat until the last one. She hasn't broken through in stakes races. Interesting that she gets Flavian Prat for the second straight time here.
Yeah, and that second in the recent allowance race that you mentioned, it's essentially like a stakes race because it was a non-winners of four condition in an allowance, and you just don't see conditions like that very often. I guess except for at a meeting like the the Keeneland meeting, Royal Spa is twice stakes placed at Oaklawn Park. So another one with some very nice allowance victories, and that second place at Keeneland did come after a bit of a layoff.
Yeah, it did come off of, about 4 months or so. She's trained by Rudolph Brousset, is having another good year. And Royal Spa has also won a couple races at Churchill Downs. And that last race you mentioned how good that allowance race at Keeneland at 7 furlongs was. The winner was Shida Booty, who is a very nice mare as well. So Royal Spa, another one you can't throw out. You certainly can't throw out the next one on the list, another 4-year-old. This is Golden Sense. Positana Sunset, Matt. Positana Sunset is a stakes winner. I know she got a stakes win last summer, going 7 furlongs at Ellis Park, and she's been pretty consistent this year in stakes company.
Yeah, has some good performances. Was also a very close second in an allowance at Keeneland, but second in the Open Mind at Churchill Downs, fourth in the prestigious Grade One Ballerina at Saratoga, and second in the Chicago, a Grade Three. So she's been knocking on the door. I like that she has been versatile, meaning that she has run well. Coming from off the pace and run well out front.
Yeah, yeah, she is a filly who can certainly pass horses, and she does have enough tactical speed, as we saw in the last race, which was a mile and 16th, which was a little bit unusual. She was the odds-on choice that day and got caught late at a mile and 16th in Keeneland. Unusual in that she's really been a sprinter in her career, and that's where her main success has come. So we'll have to see how that translates back to the one-turn mile. Could be a good setup. Ian Wilkes, certainly a filly who has some class here. Leparoux will be in the saddle. I already mentioned Ouvray a little bit. Ouvray is an interesting horse for trainer Chris Black from Chicago, who goes back and forth between grass and dirt, but her dirt form, not only does she like to win, but she really likes to win on the dirt. If you look at her record, her last several races on dirt, she has won. And the Chilukki, I guess she was in this race last year and she kind of faded to be a well-beaten third. The question with Ouvre, I think, is the distance because it looks like she could be better at 6 furlongs or so. She won Hawthorne at 6.5, 2 starts ago, and last time, she just missed in a 5.5 furlong turf race.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize something that you mentioned briefly just a bit ago, that a mile at Churchill Downs is one turn. So some of these horses that that we are mentioning that have been primarily sprinters are helped by the fact that, in my opinion, that this is a one-turn race. So keeping that in mind as we're handicapping. But yeah, but Ouvray, what a record, Brian, on this horse. 32 starts, 17, Brian, victories, along with 9 seconds and 4/3, versatile turf and dirt. It is important to note that this is an Illinois bred, and a significant number of those victories were in state bred company.
Yeah, yeah, she has, one in state bred company, certainly, as was that last dirt win 2 starts back where she ran very fast at Hawthorne, 1 off, but it was against Illinois state bred, so Ouvray, distance, class, but she's a nice mare. That's that record of 17 and 32 that you mentioned, you don't get that by being an average horse. This daughter of Shackelford is tough and certainly one that you cannot throw out here as well. Finally, one more horse I guess we can't throw out because Fancy, a daughter of Justified, has looked good in her wins this year, and she's coming off a win at Keeneland, where she was favored to do so at a mile and 16th. Before that, she was right there with Pagali in the Groupie Doll, and before that, she was a winner going a mile in allowance company at Churchill Downs.
Yeah, and another horse that has shown some speed at times. So it's going to be interesting how all this plays out in this one turn race.
Yeah, Fancy, another one you can't throw out. Fancy probably get some money out there on the outside. Interesting race. Favorite could be really good. In Too Sharp, but I think Matt and I are both willing to take a shot at her if she's getting near even money in this well-balanced field of hard-hitting mares that she has to face while stretching out for the first time. The other race is another interesting race, I think, Matt. It's a turf race, which we always love, and these are 3-year-olds going a mile and 16th. 2 races later, it's the 10th. The Commonwealth Turf is also a Grade 3, $300,000. We can start on the rail here, Matt, and it's a good place to start because my boy Prince has shown a lot of class in his career. A lot of those races up in Canada, but he's come to America before, and my boy Prince is a horse you certainly can't throw out on the rail.
No, you sure can't. Although his last two starts have been a little bit below par from what we were used to when we go back to his performance running second in the King's Plate and winning the plate trial to prepare for that race. If I'm not mistaken, we did cover that King's Plate, and I think I picked my boy Prince in that race, and I'm not sure if you did too, Brian.
No, actually, you didn't. I did, and
You
he
did.
got beat by the filly. Yeah, well, he was the favorite in the King's Plate, and I thought he would win, but the filly ran him down late there, and I think we should talk about what he did as a 2-year-old as well, because he went out to California, ran a big race in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, where he had the lead in the stretch and just faded a little bit to be third, but beaten just over a length. He was second in the Grade One Summer last year. He won the Cup and Saucer on the turf impressively. So my boy Prince has really good races throughout his career. The last two, you mentioned the Woodbine Mile. I didn't think it was all that bad. He was facing tough older horses going a mile at Woodbine, and he got beat about 4.5 lengths. Last time, though, was the Bryan Station at Keeneland. He led. He had a pretty clear lead, and for whatever reason, I guess he ran very fast early. He just stopped in mid-stretch. Those were good horses there. Maybe he ran too fast early. My boy Prince, certainly one you can't throw out. Number 2 looks like a little bit more of a long shot, Matt. That's Telescopic, and Telescopic could be the longest shot on the board here.
Yeah, trained by Vicky Oliver. This 3-year-old is also entered in the ninth race on Thursday at Churchill Downs, so we'll see what they end up doing there. Was fifth in an allowance race at Keeneland the last time, following a maiden special weight victory at Hawthorne. Yeah, this is a real test for Telescopic.
Yeah, he ran into Aksar Ben Derby a few starts back too, and was a little bit behind that one coming late. Oops, wrong race. There we go. Telescopic looks like a long shot with Luan Machado up. Number 3 won't be a long shot. Number 3 is Dashman, Matt, and I see a lot to like about Dashman. He is a horse who has turf breeding everywhere. He's a son of Oscar Performance out of a Johar mare. Brian Lynch has this horse. Seems like Brian Lynch likes his Oscar Performances, Matt. Has this horse getting better and better since switching to the turf 5 starts ago. He only had 1 race on dirt. It wasn't bad, but he's been on turf ever since, just improving with every start. He had a nice win at Ellis Park in the summer. Then he went to Kentucky Downs to win an allowance race pretty easily there, stretching out. Last time he ran in a tough company, the Jockey Club Derby Invitational out in New York, and he was a competitive force behind some very good horses.
Yeah, and that is a nice resume that you bring up. It isn't easy to win at different turf courses across the country, like this one has done, going from Ellis Park and then winning on that more European style turf course at Keeneland, and then running well up in New York. So yeah, uh, certainly a contender.
Yeah, certainly a contender, and that race in New York last time where he was fourth beaten less than 2 lengths, that was behind Carson's Run and Deterministic, 2 of the best 3-year-old turf horses in the country. Dashman, Louis Saez, Aksar Derby, I already mentioned him. What an interesting name for a horse who likes to come from way out of it, Matt. Aksar Derby, let's throw up the time form US space projector. I would imagine that Aksar Derby will be where they see him early here, Matt, and that's dead last, and he'll try to make his one big run.
Yes, indeed, and trained by John Ortiz. It seems to be in the best form of his career right now, with a maiden special weight victory, and then following that with a win in the Hawthorne Derby. Nice rider change here with Junior Alvarado getting up. Brian, come on! I thought you would give us a little history lesson about the name Axar Ben Derby.
Yeah, I've been to Axar Bend back when Axar Bend was still around, man. Of course, that's Nebraska backwards, and Axar Bend, hosted races like the Omaha Gold Cup there in Nebraska, and, they had some good horses. Wavering Monarch won the, Omaha Gold Cup back at Axar Bend. I don't remember a race called the Axar Bend Derby though, Matt, do you?
No, no, I don't. But certainly had to be mentioned about Axarben and Nebraska and the now defunct racetrack.
Yeah, absolutely, and, they had, some good horsemen out there, over the years at Exarch, track I wish was still around. Looking at getting back to this time form US pace projector, Jack Van Berg was huge at Exarch Bend, by the way, of course, who became most famous with, Ali Sheba. But, anyway, back to the time form US pace projector, Axar Bend Derby way back early as expected. But they say my boy Prince will again be part of this pace, and that's not a surprise. And one of the other favorites in the race, maybe the favorite in the race, Hershey, the number 8, will be out there as well with Evade, a import not far behind. So we could have a pretty decent pace set up here for Axar Ben Derby in the Commonwealth Turf. All right, Matt, let's get back to the field. Number 5, Piper's Factor. I think Piper's Factor will be one of the longer shots in the field, although, he was a stakes winner at Woodbine on the grass, the Toronto Cup, 2 starts back. Not far behind my boy Prince on the synthetic surface, the poly track up there in the play trial. Last time, couldn't quite get it done in a stakes race at Aquina.
Yeah, but you certainly, I don't think you can completely throw this one out considering that victory in the Toronto Cup at Woodbine, and a fourth place in that plate trial is a good performance.
Yeah, not bad at all. Yeah, my guess is the longest shot on the board will be telescopic, or if not telescopic, we'll take it. We'll take it is the number 6. Now, there are some things to say about we'll take it in here. In fact, he's most of his races are in dirt to Son of Tapit, but once upon a time he was in the Arkansas Derby. He switched to turf only recently, and the 2 races, he rallied pretty well. 2 allowance races, one, I guess, was Ellis Park, one was Keeneland. He rallied quite well in both, although he didn't get up in either.
Yeah, and an indication that ultimately turf may be his best surface, but uh, this is a big test here for this 3-year-old.
Yeah, it looks like a tough spot for Will Take It, and there are other good ralliers. We mentioned Axar Ben Derby already. Let's talk about Laganus a little bit. Laganus gets Flavian Prat. First time Flavian Prat will ride the Steve Asmussen trained son of Canteros, Matt, and he's been in a lot of stakes races on the grass. He's not winning them, but I tell you what, other than the long race at Kentucky Downs, 2 starts back, the Nashville Derby, which was a pretty loaded field. His races are pretty good. He's rallying every time. Just missed in the Grade 2 Hall of Fame at Saratoga, 3 starts back.
Yeah, and that's worth taking note of. An indication that Laganos does have some ability on the turf, and as long as he continues to be in good shape, Steve Asmussen is going to run him.
Yeah, and some of those races are good enough. I think Laganos probably has some decent odds here. Some of those races are good enough to make me think that if he is overlooked a little bit, a really nice horse to throw in the exotics for sure underneath, but I don't know which of the horses coming from well back I like better actually in the race, Laganos or Aksarb and Derby. 2 interesting horses who like to really come from behind. Speaking of interesting horses, you gotta say that about the 8, Hershey. Hershey has been extremely consistent since he made his debut this summer, at Churchill Downs. A very nice debut win on the Churchill Downs grass course. He's only run 4 times, they've all been on turf. He's got turf on his female side, a grandson of Theatrical. It's the son of Twirling Candy, and Twirling Candy can run on anything basically, but this horse looks like a turf horse, Matt, with 4 starts on grass, 4 nice races.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last two he hit the board in stakes races, third in that Bryan Station. That horses, a few horses in this field are coming out of. Second in the gun runner at Churchill Downs, nice allowance win at Ellis Park, and a maiden special weight win at Churchill Downs. So he takes his race with him wherever he goes.
Yeah, absolutely, and those 2 stakes tries, couple things, there were very fast paces in both of those 1 mile, the Gun Runner and the Bryan Station. The winner, I think, is a really, really nice horse. He might not be well known on the national, scale yet, but Brilliant Birdie is a very nice turf horse. He won both of them, and Hirschi was beaten a length and a length and a quarter after, stalking fast paces, and Brilliant Birdie came from a little farther back in those races. Hirschi has really, truly done nothing wrong in those 4 starts and probably deserves favoritism here in a pretty wide open edition of the Commonwealth Turf. And then the last horse, can't throw him out either, is Evade. Evade, Tyler Gaffalione will ride the import from Europe. And we're getting a little bit of rain here this week, so I don't think we'll see a super firm turf course. I'm not sure how wet it'll be, but maybe the wetter better for Evade.
Yeah, could be with that European background that he has. Two starts in America. He was also in that Bryan Station, finishing fourth, and finished fourth in the very rich Grade One race, the Franklin Simpson at Kentucky Downs.
Yeah, the son of Wooten Bassett, who's a great sire, by the way, over in Europe. If it's wetter than I'm expecting here, I'm thinking it's either going to be a not real firm or a good type of turf course. But if it's wetter, watch out for him even more. The thing that I worry about a little bit is he's stretching out to a mile and a 16th for the first time in his career here. The Bryan Station was a mile last time, and even with the fast pace, he couldn't get by Hershey that day. So. I wonder if he's gonna get by him going farther, with a little bit less of an early pace in here, but Evade, an interesting horse. He's run in Group 1 races in France and in England over there, and, a horse who may still make some real noise for one of our top turf trainers, Mike Maker. Uh, One you can't throw out for sure in the Commonwealth Turf. Alright, those are 2, like we said, 2 interesting races, Churchill Downs, both 300,000. Grade 3. We like them, Matt. Let's go with our top picks here.
Okie doke. Starting out with the Chilukki, I assume. I'm going to try and beat the favorite in here, just on the concerns of the added distance, and I mentioned the blinkers on. I doesn't thrill me in here, so I'm going to take a shot, and my shot is going to be with Positano Sunset for Ian Wilkes. I mentioned the versatility that this horse has won up front and from off the pace. Has some good efforts. Needs to break through in stakes company, but has run well in stakes. Some of them very classy races. So Positano Sunset for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Too Sharp, I think I probably like Too Sharp a little bit more than you overall because I've been following her whole career, and I think she's a big talent. But everything about this race says let's take a shot because she's going to be low odds. She's never been farther than 6.5. I think horses probably will pressure her before they hit the far turn at some point in this Chaluki. So let's take a shot against Too Sharp at the odds. She could win, but the odds just aren't worth the risk there. I like Pagali. Pagali is I think there's a lot of horses who like 6 furlongs in this race, 6.5 furlongs. Pagali looks like a miler to me, and Pagali is getting better and better. She's proven it at a mile at Churchill Downs. She won the Groupie Doll against good horses. I'm gonna try Pagali to upset Too Sharp in the Chaluki. How about the Commonwealth Turf, Matt?
Well, the Commonwealth Turf, certainly a race where we are not going to have a heavy favorite as in the Chilukki. I am going to go with Axarben Derby. Got to love Axarben. Trainer John Ortiz seems to have this horse at his very best right now. He'll need to step up a little bit more. He'll need to get that pace for his closing move. Axarban Derby for me.
Yeah, Exarban Derby is an interesting horse. I think you like that name as much as anything, though, Matt. I'm gonna go Dashman. Dashman is for me. Don't expect him to be the favorite. As we said, no one's gonna be a heavy favorite in here. I think Hirschi will probably be the favorite, but Dashman is just getting better and better for trainer Brian Lynch, and I think this race could set up well for him. He'll be more of the middle of the pack, good enough pace where he can make really first run at the leaders. And I think the leaders, Karachi and my boy Prince might make it easier for the horses coming a little bit from behind. Dashman for me as my top pick in the Commonwealth Turf. Can I get a parting shot from you, Matt, before we say goodbye here on Horse Center?
Absolutely, Brian. As always, a pleasure to be at Horse Center and get back to some regular racing here, Churchill Downs, and looking forward to Thanksgiving, where we'll
All right, Matt, I think I lost you there. All right. Let's say thank you to Candace Curtis for the race graphics. Derby Wars, our sponsor for uh, the best contest site out there is Derby Wars, and of course, Timeform US for their great pace projections. There's Matt. I see him again. Folks, thanks for watching Horse Center every week. We'll be back next week. We'll be talking Clark and another big race from Churchill Downs. Until then, have a great week. We'll